Chris Watts, family murderer, wanted to give you relationship advice on his YouTube channel. Let's break it all down along with his very odd body language. That's next. Welcome back to the channel, Shakers. Derek Van Shake here. As many of you know, Chris Watts was that northern Colorado man who sadly murdered his pregnant wife and 2 young daughters on August 13th, 2018. However, did you know Chris Watts had a YouTube channel? Yes, the channel was created on April 22nd, 2012. So it's clearly his personal YouTube channel. And what's uploaded on it, you may ask? Yeah, of all things, a relationship advice presentation. The video was filmed in April of 2012. His oldest daughter, Bella, was born on December 17th, 2013. So this is Chris Watts before he was married and before he became a father. You're not gonna believe the advice he gives you. So we're gonna break down his body language and the evidence with the irony that Chris Watts is giving you relationship advice to reveal shocking truths about Chris Watts. Now, let's get started.
Well, my name is Chris Watts.
Chris Watts, W-A-T-T-S.
I'm doing my communication speech for Brenda Armentrout, and welcome to Broomfield, Colorado.
I used to actually live in Broomfield, Colorado at this time, so it's quite likely that I may have come across them unknowingly in like the supermarket or something, which is quite creepy.
About 70 degrees, and it's awesome outside, so welcome.
Knowing Chris's past educational history, it doesn't seem like he's doing this presentation for a college course. And he's making this presentation at home. Really weird, right? It could be a relationship counseling course, but it's odd that we don't see Shanann, his future wife, in the audience.
I'm doing my speech on relationship deterioration and repair, and this is my PowerPoint to help me.
As you're surely noticing, we notice a lot of nervous body language. And this is exactly why it's important to understand context when evaluating body language. Nervous body language in a situation where it would make sense for them to lie could indicate deception. Here, he's likely not lying, of course. He's just nervous giving a presentation because he sucks at giving presentations. We see a lot of self-comforting hand-wringing, as well as the hand-wringing creating a frontal barrier to prevent against a frontal assault. We see some nervous swaying. Yeah, he's very nervous in giving this presentation.
Deterioration. The relationship begins to fall apart, crumble, or fail. You have weakening bonds. You get bored of the everyday routine, and you get distractions such as work, hobbies, relationships, no matter how harmless, even at the job. You might meet a new person, and it could strengthen into something else.
Here's what's pretty odd. Chris Watts is clearly very nervous giving this stupid little presentation to like 5 people in the entire room. He's like a nervous wreck here, but he's not nearly as nervous talking to the media and talking to millions of people who are going to see it right after he just terminated his family.
Wherever they're at, like I have no inclination to where they're at right now. When I got home yesterday, it was like a ghost town. Like she wasn't here. Kids weren't here. I don't feel like this is even real right now. It's like a nightmare that I just can't wake up from.
The first phase of deterioration is interpersonal dissatisfaction, which when you become unhappy with all the everyday interactions with you and your partner. You also begin to view your future with your partner as a negative future.
It's kind of ironic, isn't it, that he's talking about this and 6 years later that it happens exactly to him.
You're so damn sexy.
And the second phase is interpersonal deterioration, which you start to grow farther and farther apart. You share less of your free time with each other. You have more awkward silences at dinner, or when you're just out by yourself, you don't talk at all. You disclose less of your feelings, and you show less affection toward each other.
I'm sure he plagiarized most of this presentation too.
When you have good communication, you show more nonverbal communication, which is the majority of the messages we send, like through gestures, facial expressions, eye contact, the tone of your voice.
Big nervous gulps like that because you're scared to give a presentation to 5 people.
The tone of your voice.
His excessive nervousness here is disgusting, isn't it? But put him in front of cameras after he just annihilated his family, and he's like,
I like these shirts a lot.
I don't know where they are.
I have no inclination of where she is.
I don't know where they could be.
Not knowing like where she is or where the kids are.
And what happened to them?
I don't know what to do right now. I just feel so alone in this house right now, and I don't know I don't know where to go from here right now.
I've heard some people say that, oh no, Chris Watts can't be any level of psychopathy. It's impossible that he's a psychopath because he only did this one thing this one time. I don't know where he is on the psychopathy scale, but he's somewhere on that psychopathy scale. For him to do what he did, to kill everyone except his dog, and to be able to come home and act like everything's fine and that he's not scared, nervous, sad, that anything like that happened. To be able to talk to the news media and be completely bold-faced and straight-faced about it, to not show any emotion after what he just did with his bare hands and the way that he hid his family. Yes, he's somewhere on the psychopathy scale.
A few quotes that I've done research on from Elaine Schemberg: all relationships problems stem from poor communication skills, which is very true.
Yeah, that's very ironic. He kept his secret cheating life completely under the radar, apparently put on this fake happy face as the world's most perfect husband and the world's most perfect dad.
Here we go, Steelers, here we go. Ooh, ooh.
All relationships problems stem from poor communication skills, which is very true.
And if you notice, he seems extra nervous here, looking away, giving a gulp, continuing with the self-comforting and self-defense body language. Yeah, he seems to even know that communicating in a relationship is not his strong suit, which also gives a little extra evidence to what I was saying in my previous video on Chris Watts, that Chris was lying, but Chris claims that he nudged her, and as soon as she was turning over, and remember she's pregnant, he jumps on her, straddling her.
And so...
She was fine, like just laying there, like you trying to talk to her while you're on top of her?
But instead, possibly one of the reasons why he did do the acts, because he was trying to cover up his cheating and didn't want to own up to it and have to tell her what he was doing.
Commitment is especially strong when individuals are satisfied with their relationship and grows weaker as individuals become less satisfied.
Well, thank you, Captain Obvious. When people are satisfied with the relationship, they're more committed. When they're less satisfied, they're not as committed. I think for him, because he lacks such emotional IQ and has no understanding of how people feel, apparently, he includes such stupid things in his presentation and is telling us the most obvious things.
Sometimes when you have children and your relationship starts to deteriorate, a child could help repair it.
Whoa, boy. That's some pretty terrible advice. You shouldn't rely on the kids to help repair your own relationship with somebody. That's a lot of pressure you're putting on a kid. As many of you know, having a kid when the relationship is already going downhill usually is not going to help save the relationship, especially if someone already has a secret love interest in their life.
When commitment is weak, the relationship is full of doubt and the relationship deteriorates faster.
This is some of the most basic crap. I think when he was reading the first chapter of the book, he was like, whoa, I never thought of it like that. Oh my gosh. Oh, man, when commitment is weak, then a relationship is weak. Whoa. But it's not surprising that he's presenting all this crap like it's profound because he's just so bad at interpersonal communication, which is very typical of a psychopath.
You have two types of deterioration. You have sudden and you have gradual. Sudden would be an example of infidelity.
What? That's not right at all. Usually with infidelity, it's gradual leading to infidelity. It's not like, hey, I was at the bachelor party and yeah, it was she was pretty cute. You know, usually it's not that. Usually it's going to be like something he did 6 years forward from this point. Usually it's like, hey, I met this girl at work. Hey, I met this guy at school. Hey, I met this girl at the gym. Something like that. And then it escalates from there.
When somebody is not faithful to their partner, the partners realize that the relationship cannot be sustained.
What is he talking about? So many people cheat and then get back together, and they're able to continue a healthy relationship after someone cheated. A lot of this proves just how stupid he is emotionally. He doesn't really seem to understand anything interpersonal, but that makes a lot of sense because that's very typical of a psychopath. It's like he's just saying words and doesn't really understand anything behind the words. Because it's everything that he doesn't understand.
Reasons relationships start to fall apart. Sometimes you no longer find your partner attractive, physically or in their personality.
Yes, some of this is quite creepy because it actually seems like he's talking about his future self.
When your differences become more important than the similarities, you just pick apart your partner and you don't see anything that you have in common anymore. You just see something he or she does and it just gets on your nerves and you just can't let that go.
Keep in mind too, this video was not on his hard drive somewhere where no one would see it. This was on his public YouTube channel. He had access to this video, which he would have been like, oh my goodness, it's like my former self talking to my future self. Of course, it just feels like, you know, if only he would have maybe even just watched it and maybe just understood maybe a fraction of it, it could have saved their lives.
According to Bloomstein and Schwartz, when a relationship breaks up, it's generally the more attractive one that leaves, which I agree with somewhat and then I disagree with.
Looking back at his situation, he was getting thinner and getting more fit. And I know we all disagree, but I think in his mind, he thought he was the more attractive one. And law enforcement is very much aware when someone in the relationship gets more physically fit, starts going to the gym, starts dieting, starts looking a little bit better, it becomes a little bit of a suspicion that they're cheating. Listen to the interrogator, Graham Coder, say that to Chris.
I see pictures of you from a few years ago, and I see you standing before me now. Okay, you've gotten pretty fit. Okay, you can imagine when guys start cheating or want to cheat, that's what happens. Yes. So tell me about it. I did not cheat on my wife. Okay. Not Thrive helped me. I went from 245 pounds to about 245. About 245 pounds. And
That's great, man.
Thank you.
When the relationship starts to dissolve, repair is not an option and they want to get away and start new.
There's very little human emotion under his words and his gestures that he's doing. It really feels like he doesn't fully understand what he's saying, and he's just saying the most basic things because he doesn't know anything about relationships.
When you want to go into repair, you need to analyze what went wrong and consider what ways of solving the problems. You need to consider changing your behavior or perhaps changing your expectations for your partner. And you might also want to evaluate how you could feel in the relationship if it had ended.
Was that even a word?
If it had ended.
He's so uncomfortable.
When you want to go into repair,
And he's talking about this so far removed. He's talking about this and acting just so emotionally stupid.
avoid words like always and never. If you say this to your partner, it just makes the relationship makes it backtrack.
Avoid saying always and ever, such as I'll always love you, I'll never stop loving you. I mean, he's just so stupid. But let's all just try to interpret stupid. What could he have meant? We have to think like a stupid person. Put your stupid hats on. Think stupid, think stupid, think stupid. Maybe he means it if you're fighting and you're saying insults and you say, I will always never love you? I don't know. Oh, this hurts. Enough of this.
Listen to your partner. Make sure they feel wanted. Make sure that they know that you're there and not in space somewhere thinking about the baseball game that's coming up or the football game that's coming up, which I sometimes do.
And yeah, it makes sense why he would, right? Because he has some level of psychopathy. He doesn't have empathy to be able to have a meaningful conversation. And those conversations that people do have with him about something that is meaningful to them just goes over his head, and he can't really understand it, and he can't really feel anything that they feel because he lacks complete empathy of what they're saying to him. Someone trying to get a psychopath to empathize with them. It's kind of like you or me hearing a foreign language we don't know.
Think clearly before saying things you may later forget. Don't just blurt out something. Just think about it. Don't just, if something comes to your mind, then it might be wrong. I do that too.
And this one, too, makes complete sense because it seems like his girlfriend, fiance at the time, Shanann, had those feelings that he would just say anything that just first came to mind because he's unable to absorb and understand any of her emotions that she shares with him. Why? He seems to be a psychopath. So instead of listening and understanding somebody, maybe saying the first thing that comes to mind to squash the empathy that someone is laying on him because it's something he can't understand.
And keep channels of communication open. Always disclose your feelings. Don't keep things bottled up because it will later come back to bite you.
Don't keep things biled up because it'll just come back to bite you. Yeah, very true, Chris.
Discuss solutions that both you and your partner win. Don't have a win-lose solution.
Forget win-lose. Chris seemed to figure out how to make a lose-lose-lose-lose-lose solution. Did he really think he was going to get away with it? He kind of did. He came home that day pretending he's all innocent. I don't know where they could be, but I'm just going to text my mistress. I'm not going to really look for them. And then takes a lie detector test. Fails the lie detector test, of course. He actually thought he could pass the polygraph test. Everything of what he did, combined with how he was acting when he got home and how he was acting at the police station.
They vanished. They were taken. Someone has taken them. They're safe somewhere. We don't know.
Thinking he could get away with it? Yes, that all indicates massively psychopath. Psychopaths have a grandiose view of themselves, thinking that they can get away with it, thinking that they can pass a polygraph test.
Cherish the gestures. It's a smile, a wink, a kiss, maybe just a hug, anything. anything at all.
Cherish the gestures? It doesn't seem like he understands anything other than just surface level. You also have to look at intent. For example, you hug your girl or guy because you're trying to cover up for the fact that you cheated on him. That shouldn't be cherished. All that intent and emotion behind all those physical gestures usually just go right over the psychopath's head. They don't really understand the difference. This is very much in line with how psychopaths think. Psychopaths associate love with sex. They can't really just understand love itself. They don't have the mental capacity to understand love. Similar to how he's talking about just the gestures and not the emotion underneath, behind all the gestures.
Solutions into normal behavior. Say you're sorry. I mean, sometimes it takes a lot to admit that just to say you're sorry, but it helps.
Just say you're sorry. Again, no talking about the emotions underneath the apology. Instead of saying when you feel like you've messed up, be big about it and say you're sorry. But for him as a psychopath, very surface level. Say you're sorry. No emotion, no feeling, because he doesn't have that.
And in conclusion, I'd say that relationships are hard, but they're worth it in the end.
Relationships are hard, but they're worth it in the end. In the end of what? When you die? I mean, what? It should be worth it in the journey. The whole point of a relationship is to make all of our lives easier, including the people we bring into the world. That's the point of relationships. It's worth more when we're living, not at the end.
A double joy is a shared joy, and a double sorrow is not a shared sorrow.
Double sorrow is not a shared sorrow.
What about a quadruple sorrow?
Thank you.
So what do we learn with all this? Yeah, even more evidence that he is on the psychopathy scale. We confirmed and learned even further how stupid Chris Watts is. Confirmed what a terrible communicator he is, that he doesn't like to share very much with the person that he's with, which also seems to confirm our theory that he did not confront Shanann that night. He was not proactive about it, and one of the motives for his crimes was to cover up his infidelities. So Shanann, her family, the kids, don't ever have to find out what he did. As we said in my last video on Chris Watts, he seemed to be lying and did not confront Shanann that night on what he did. As dumb as Chris Watts' relationship advice was, even if he took a fraction of it seriously, he would have saved so many lives, including his own. So he wouldn't have to be spending the rest of his life in a smelly jail cell with Bubba. Give this video a thumbs up if you wouldn't take relationship advice from Chris Watts. Give this video a thumbs down if you would take relationship advice from Chris Watts. Now in the comments, what did you think of Chris Watts' relationship advice? Let everyone know in the comments below. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button now because we don't want to miss out on new body language and investigative videos that always seem to shake up YouTube. And I'll see you at the top.